My sister vanished. Now they want me, a 21-year-old student, to raise her son. What would you do? I never thought I'd be in this position at 21. My name is Olivia, and I'm just trying to survive college while working part-time at a local coffee shop. My life was already a delicate balancing act of classes, shifts, and the occasional night out with friends. But now I'm caught in a family drama that threatens to upend everything. It all started with my sister, Mia. She's 27, and to say she's free-spirited would be putting it mildly. Mia has always been the wild child of our family, jumping from job to job, relationship to relationship, never really settling down. But 4 years ago, she surprised us all by having a son, my nephew, Ethan. For a while, it seemed like Ethan had grounded Mia. She got a steady job at a boutique, rented a small apartment, and seemed to be taking motherhood seriously. Our parents, Tom and Linda, were thrilled. They thought Mia had finally grown up. But then, about a month ago, everything changed. I remember the day clearly. It was a Sunday, and I was studying for a midterm when my mom called, her voice tight with worry. "Olivia, honey, have you heard from your sister?" I hadn't, but that wasn't unusual. Mia and I weren't exactly close. "She dropped Ethan off yesterday, saying she needed a break for the weekend," Mom explained. "But she's not answering her phone, and we just got a text." The text, as it turned out, was vague and alarming. Mia had written, "I need to find myself. Take care of Ethan. I'll be back when I can." At first, we all thought it was just Mia being Mia. She'd pull herself together in a day or two and come back for Ethan. But days turned into weeks, and there was no sign of my sister. Meanwhile, my parents were struggling. They're in their early 60s, and while they adore Ethan, taking care of a rambunctious 4-year-old full-time was taking its toll. Dad's arthritis was flaring up from all the bending and lifting, and Mom's migraines were getting more frequent from the stress. That's when the hints started. "Olivia, sweetie," Mom said one evening when I stopped by after class. "You're so good with Ethan. He really lights up when you're around." I smiled, bouncing Ethan on my knee. "He's a great kid, Mom. You're doing a fantastic job with him." She sighed, rubbing her temples. "We're not as young as we used to be. It's getting harder every day." I felt a pang of guilt but pushed it aside. "I know, Mom. I wish I could help more, but with classes and work." "We understand, dear," Dad chimed in, but the look he exchanged with Mom spoke volumes. As the weeks went by, the hints became more frequent and less subtle. It started with suggestions that I spend more time at their house, then evolved into comments about how I might be able to adjust my class schedule or work fewer hours. "You know, Olivia," Dad said one day, "your old room is still free. Ethan could sleep there, and you could commute to college." I cut him off gently but firmly. "Dad, I can't move back home. My life is at college now." He nodded, but I could see the disappointment in his eyes. The situation came to a head about 2 months after Mia's disappearance. I had just finished a grueling shift at the coffee shop and was looking forward to a quiet night of studying when my phone rang. It was Mom, and she sounded on the verge of tears. "Olivia, we can't do this anymore. Your father's back is acting up, and I just can't keep up with Ethan. We need help." I felt a mix of frustration and guilt wash over me. "Mom, I've told you, I can babysit sometimes, but I can't." "We're not asking you to babysit," she interrupted. We think you should take Ethan full-time." The words hit me like a ton of bricks. "What? Mom, no. I can't be anyone's guardian. I'm barely keeping my own life together." "But you're doing so well in school, and you have that job," she protested. "You're the only one who has their life together right now." I laughed bitterly. "Mom, I'm surviving on ramen and coffee. My apartment is the size of a shoebox. I can't take care of a child." The conversation ended with both of us frustrated and upset. But it wasn't over. Over the next few days, both my parents called and texted repeatedly, trying to convince me to take Ethan. "It's just until Mia comes back," Dad reasoned. "And when will that be?" I shot back. "She's been gone for months." I felt like I was being crushed under the weight of their expectations. I loved Ethan, but I wasn't ready to be a mother. I had dreams, plans for my future that didn't involve raising my sister's child. Then, out of the blue, Mia called. I was in the middle of a study group when my phone lit up with her number. I excused myself and stepped into the hallway, my heart pounding. Mia? Where the hell have you been? Hey, sis, she said, sounding annoyingly carefree. How's it going? How's it going? I repeated incredulously. You disappeared for months, leaving your son behind, and that's all you have to say? There was a pause, and when Mia spoke again, her voice had lost some of its lightness. Look, I know you're probably mad. Mad doesn't begin to cover it, I interrupted. Mia, what were you thinking? Mom and Dad are exhausted, Ethan is confused and upset, and everyone's been worried sick about you. I needed to find myself, she said, echoing her text from months ago. I've been on a journey of self-discovery, Olivia. I've been traveling, meeting new people, exploring who I really am outside of being a mother. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. And what about your responsibilities? What about Ethan? That's kind of why I'm calling, Mia said hesitantly. I heard from Mom that things have been tough. I thought maybe you could step up and help out more. I saw red. Step up? Are you kidding me? Mia, he's your son. You need to come back and take care of him. I can't right now, Olivia, she said, a hint of frustration creeping into her voice. I'm not in a good place to be a mother. I need more time. And I'm in a good place. I shot back. I'm 21, in college, working part-time. I can barely take care of myself. But you've always been the responsible one, Mia argued. You have your life together. I thought you'd understand and want to help family. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Understand? Mia, you abandoned your child. And now you're trying to dump your responsibilities on me? That's not how this works. You're being selfish, Mia accused. Family is supposed to help each other out. Selfish? I was practically shouting now. You're the one who ran off on some journey of self-discovery and left everyone else to clean up your mess. That's the definition of selfish, Mia. The argument continued, with Mia alternating between guilt-tripping me and accusing me of abandoning family. By the time I hung up, I was shaking with anger and frustration. But the confrontation with Mia was just the beginning. When I called my parents to tell them about the conversation, hoping they'd see reason, I was in for a shock. Maybe Mia has a point, Mom said hesitantly. You are in a more stable position than she is right now. I couldn't believe my ears. Mom, I'm a college student. How is that stable? You have a job, you're doing well in your studies, Dad chimed in. And you've always been more mature than Mia. Maybe this is a sign that you need to step up and take on more responsibility. I felt like I was taking crazy pills. I'm not ready to be a mother. And more importantly, I don't want to be one right now. I have plans for my life, and they don't include raising Mia's child. Sometimes life doesn't go according to plan, Mom said softly. Sometimes we have to make sacrifices for family. The conversation devolved from there, with my parents insisting that I needed to grow up and take on this responsibility, while I tried desperately to make them understand my position. By the time we hung up, we were all upset, and nothing had been resolved. Over the next few weeks, the pressure only increased. My parents called daily, alternating between guilt trips and attempts at persuasion. Mia texted occasionally, always with some variation of "Have you changed your mind yet?" I felt like I was being torn apart. On one hand, I loved Ethan. He was a sweet kid, and it broke my heart to think of him feeling confused and abandoned. But on the other hand, I knew I wasn't ready for this responsibility. I had dreams, goals, a future I'd been working towards. Taking on a child full-time would mean putting all of that on hold, maybe indefinitely. My friends tried to be supportive, but I could tell they didn't really understand the magnitude of what I was facing. Just tell them no, my best friend, Zoe, said over coffee one day. It's not your responsibility. I've tried, I sighed. But they just keep pushing. And part of me feels guilty, like maybe I am being selfish. Zoe shook her head firmly. Olivia, you're not being selfish. You're being realistic. You can't put your entire life on hold because your sister decided to flake out. I knew she was right, but it didn't make the situation any easier. As the semester progressed, my grades started to slip. The constant stress and family drama were taking their toll, making it hard to concentrate on my studies. My manager at the coffee shop pulled me aside one day, concerned about my distracted demeanor and the increase in customer complaints. "Is everything okay, Olivia?" she asked gently. "You seem off lately." I considered brushing it off, but the weight of everything suddenly felt too heavy to bear. Before I knew it, I was crying in the back room, spilling the whole story to my bewildered manager. To her credit, she was incredibly understanding. She gave me a few days off to try and sort things out, but we both knew that was just a band-aid on a much larger problem. The breaking point came about 3 months after Mia's initial disappearance. I had just failed a midterm, something that had never happened to me before. As I sat in my tiny apartment, staring at the big red F on my paper, my phone buzzed with yet another text from my mom. "Ethan's asking for you. Please reconsider. We can't do this much longer." Something inside me snapped. I grabbed my keys and drove to my parents' house, my hands shaking on the steering wheel. When I arrived, I found my mom in the kitchen, looking exhausted, while Ethan napped on the couch. "We need to talk," I said firmly. "All of us. Including Mia." Mom looked startled, but nodded. "I'll call your father home from work." An hour later, we were all gathered in the living room. Mia was on speakerphone, her voice tinny and distant. Ethan was still napping, blissfully unaware of the family drama unfolding around him. "This can't go on," I started, my voice shaking slightly. "We need to figure out a solution, and it can't involve me becoming Ethan's full-time guardian." "Olivia," Mom began, but I held up a hand. "No, please let me finish. I love Ethan, and I want to help. But I'm not in a position to be anyone's mother right now. My grades are slipping, I'm close to losing my job, and I'm constantly stressed and anxious. This isn't good for me, and it wouldn't be good for Ethan either." I turned to the phone. "Mia, I understand that you're going through something, but Ethan is your son. You need to step up and take responsibility." "I told you, I'm not ready," Mia protested. "None of us were ready," I snapped. "Do you think Mom and Dad were ready to become full-time caregivers again in their 60s? Do you think Ethan was ready to have his mom disappear? Sometimes we have to do things we're not ready for because it's the right thing to do." There was a long silence on the other end of the line. "And Mom, Dad," I continued, turning to my parents. "I know you're struggling, and I want to help. But trying to force me into a role I'm not prepared for isn't the answer. We need to find another solution." Dad sighed heavily. "What do you suggest, Olivia?" I took a deep breath. "I think we need to look into professional help. Maybe a part-time nanny or daycare service to give you guys a break. I'll contribute what I can financially, and I'll still babysit when I can. But we can't keep going like this." There was a long, tense silence in the room. Finally, Mom spoke up. Maybe Olivia has a point," she said slowly. "We can't keep expecting her to put her life on hold. And Mia. Sweetheart, you need to come home. Your son needs you." I don't know if I can," Mia's voice was small. "You can," I said firmly. "And you will. Because that's what parents do. They show up, even when it's hard." The conversation that followed was long and often painful. There were tears, accusations, and moments of painful honesty. But by the end of it, we had the beginnings of a plan. Mia agreed to come home within the month. She'd move back in with our parents temporarily while she got back on her feet. We'd look into family counseling to help us all process what had happened and move forward. And we'd hire a part-time nanny to help out, with all of us contributing what we could to cover the cost. As for me, I'd continue to be a part of Ethan's life, but as his aunt, not his guardian. I'd babysit when I could and spend time with him, but my primary focus would be on my studies and building my own future. It wasn't a perfect solution, and I knew we had a long road ahead of us. There were still hurt feelings and trust to rebuild. But for the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. As I left my parents' house that evening, Ethan woke up from his nap. He rubbed his eyes sleepily and gave me a big smile. "Aunt Olivia," he exclaimed, running to hug my legs. "Are you staying for dinner?" I knelt down to his level, feeling a mix of love and relief wash over me. "Not tonight, buddy. But I'll be back soon, okay? And guess what? Your mom's coming home soon too." His eyes lit up. "Really? When?" "Soon," I promised, ruffling his hair. "Really soon." As I drove home that night, I felt lighter than I had in months. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but at least now we were all moving in the same direction. And me. I was moving forward, towards the future I'd always dreamed of, with my family alongside me, not holding me back. I thought about the past few months, the stress and the arguments, the fear and the guilt. It had been a tough time, but maybe, just maybe, we'd all come out stronger for it. Mia would have to step up and face her responsibilities, my parents would get the help they needed, and well, I'd learned a valuable lesson about standing up for myself and my dreams, even in the face of family pressure. As I pulled into the parking lot of my apartment building, I made a silent promise to myself. I would be there for Ethan and my family, but I wouldn't lose sight of my own path. It was a delicate balance, but one I was finally ready to tackle. Tomorrow, I'd hit the books hard, making up for lost time. I'd talk to my professors about my slipping grades and see if there was any way to salvage the semester. And then, this weekend, I'd spend some quality time with Ethan, just being his aunt, not his potential guardian. The next few weeks flew by in a whirlwind of activity. True to her word, Mia returned home, looking both sheepish and determined. It was awkward at first, with Ethan unsure how to react to his mother's sudden reappearance, but they slowly began to rebuild their bond. My parents, with the help of the part-time nanny we hired, seemed to regain some of their energy. The lines of worry on their faces began to soften, and I caught them smiling more often. As for me, I threw myself into my studies with renewed vigor. My professors were surprisingly understanding once I explained the situation, and with some extra credit work, I managed to pull my grades back up. One sunny afternoon, about 2 months after our family meeting, I found myself sitting in the park with Ethan. He was happily playing on the swings while I watched from a nearby bench. Mia plopped down beside me, 2 ice cream cones in hand. "Peace offering?" she said, holding one out to me. I took it with a small smile. "Thanks." We sat in companionable silence for a while, watching Ethan play. Finally, Mia spoke. "I'm sorry, Olivia," she said quietly. "For everything. For leaving, for putting all that pressure on you. It wasn't fair." I nodded, feeling the last of my resentment melt away. "No, it wasn't. But I'm glad you're back now." She bumped her shoulder against mine. "Me too. And thank you. For standing up to all of us, for making us face reality. I needed that wake-up call." I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw the changes. She seemed more grounded, more present. "You're doing great, Mia. Ethan's lucky to have you." She grinned. "He's lucky to have all of us. Especially his awesome Aunt Olivia." As if on cue, Ethan ran up to us, face flushed with excitement. "Mom! Aunt Olivia! Push me on the swings." Laughing, we both got up to join him. As I watched Mia push Ethan on the swing, his delighted giggles filling the air, I felt a sense of peace settle over me. We'd been through a storm, but we'd come out the other side stronger, with clearer boundaries and a deeper understanding of each other. I knew there would be more challenges ahead. Mia was still finding her footing as a mother, my parents were learning to step back, and I was balancing my role as an aunt with my own goals and dreams. But for the first time in months, I felt confident that we could handle whatever came our way. As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the park, I realized that this was what family was all about. Not perfect, not always easy, but always there, supporting each other through the ups and downs. And me. I was exactly where I needed to be, pursuing my dreams, with my family by my side, not holding me back but cheering me on every step of the way.